cost to the taxpayer?
So the question was, will the state fund energy enhancements such as solar or other aspects that may have higher initial costs, but would actually save you money over time? And I'll let actually Lisa answer that one.
Unfortunately, no. But I know that it's an important aspect to several people in the community, and it's a constant conversation we have with the Energy Efficiencies Subcommittee. So they won't support it, but if it's something that the local community would like to have, it could definitely be part of the project.
And does the current format, the way or the structure, change traffic flow at all around the high school?
So the question is, does the current site layout change any of the traffic flow in and around the site? So again, the short answer is we actually haven't, in some ways, we haven't designed the site. We have an idea of what the site might look like. However, we have to be really careful and clear that we haven't spent a lot of time detailed defining what that site is. And but that is a potential. We're looking at the connection from Harris to Western is going to, through Auburn Heights, is going to stay. There has to be a road going through there. And so you can almost see it right there. But what we're looking to do is, in looking at the sort of northern part of the site that we're trying to utilize for more of the fields, we're looking at potentially changing the ends of those streets and maybe looping a couple of the side streets that come off Court. But that's just speculation at this point. Other questions? Yep.
So when you make those changes, or when you're looking at that stuff, whose decision is that to change the street and do all that? I mean, is the public, are they able to?
Oh, absolutely. So the question is, as we're looking at these changes to the site, does the public have a say or input into this? And so there's more opportunity for folks to come and look at our proposed design. It actually still has to go through planning board for review, and so there's opportunity for public comment as that as well. But we don't want that to be the first time that we hear from you folks. And so again, if you're really interested in that, we will again continue to look at the school website to see when our next public forums are on the site design and layout, and we again want to hear from you. And so even afterwards, if there are particular concerns, come on up and share those with us, because we want to have that information as we sit down and think about designing the site itself. So please, things like that, let us know. Yeah, I want to make it clear. The question was, you can't respond if we don't have a design. So let me just again restate. Everything right now that we envision does not encroach beyond the property boundaries as the site currently exists. We're not. So everything that's shown doesn't take more land. It doesn't sort of take and put a cul-de-sac on a street that's outside of the site. Everything we're looking at is contained within the site of the currently owned EL.
And all of the neighbors, the abutting neighbors, are aware of that.
So one of the things is, again, that we're trying to be very public with this process. And so right now the idea is that you have a high school on the existing site. We're going to keep this high school on the existing site. That's what we know. And we again so if you're an abutter, and we've had one neighborhood, we've had one discussion with an abutter, but please come on up, let's spread the word, let the school department know we want to hear from you.
And to build on that, during permitting, we will reach out to all abutters. You'll all be notified of the permitting process to receive a letter in the mail. So we'll keep you up abreast of what's happening with the design as we go in front of the planning board.
Yep.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sorry. I was saying, when we get into the I speak softly, so I apologize. When we get into permitting, all the abutters will be notified. There'll be a letter sent to each abutting neighbor. You will be notified as to when the planning board meetings are, and we would invite you to contact us, like Mark said before that. We've already had a sit down with one abutter that contacted us directly with questions. So we want to make this as open as public as possible. So please see us with your questions.
Yes.
So I would expect that with that process that you're going to have additional traffic potentially for your future. So with that, I would be also
so the question was, in terms of these changes and the potential increase for traffic, how are we making sure that the neighborhood is clear about what those impacts might be? Part of, again, the site development that we have to do for the planning board and also through the state requires us to check in with the Department of Transportation. And so we'll actually be looking at the number of trips generated with the new school, and does that trip any changes that are going to be required. So we can tell you, sort of, here's a baseline of what currently trip traffic is, and we can say here's what the changes would be. We don't know what those are yet, but we will be getting into that level of detail as we move through this next phase of the design. I think was there a question back here?
I was just wondering if the state takes into consideration when they say site cost, or which site is better or worse, do they take into consideration blasting and leveling and all of those things? Does the state pay for that?
Right. So the question was, as we consider the site development costs, does the state pay for things such as blasting of ledge and filling of the bad soils? And so the answer is, to the best of our knowledge, absolutely, they do. They pay for the site development costs of the new school. Absolutely.
So Lewiston moves a lot of dirt over there.
Yep.
Into their fields. Is that something that you're looking at over here? Moving a ton of dirt around?
So the question is, when Lewiston just redid the Franklin Pasture site, and they filled in some holes and moved the football field, they had to move a lot of dirt. Are we envisioning that's going to happen here? So there's going to be a fair amount of leveling of the site, and so there'll be a lot of work, earthwork on the site. We actually calculate how much we have to remove and how much we have to fill, and I think this is a net fill site, so we actually have to bring in a little more than we have available on site. So yeah, there will be some effort to redevelop it. Yep. Actually, there was, I think.
Me again.
Yep, you again, and then we'll go over here.
I'm just thinking of safety with all the school shootings. Are we going to have things in place for that now, making our school a little safer?
The question was about school safety and security in light of sort of what we see on the news and what's being envisioned as part of the design of the new school. And again, we haven't gotten into the new school. We will tell you that absolutely, we're required, again, through the Department of Education, to be very mindful of security measures as we're doing it. One of the things that we're considering with the site, though, is how do we create a secure site to a degree that we can, so that there's more opportunity if something should happen. How do we secure the site
I
itself?
was thinking about that. Wouldn't it be better to have only one entrance and exit in case, say, there were a shooting? It would be easier to stop somebody at one place and try to stop
So the
both.
question was, wouldn't a single point of access be better to help control that? The answer is actually it works against that, because if something were to happen at that single point, then we're sort of stuck there. So it's better to have more than one, not too many, but we have to be able to control those points. So that's kind of the way that works. Bonnie?
And following that same vein of thought and security, we're going to have a lot of construction going on at that site. And right now, we secure the building and most of the surrounding area. Are we going to be able to secure the site somewhat already, or what?
Right, so again, I think that Bonnie had a question following up on the point we just made, which is, are we going to be able to secure the site, not just the building? And again, it's sort of we'll look very carefully at it. Things such as the snake trail is a nice walking path down. We can put a gate, but then the question is, we have to look at, what's the protocol for securing even the site, should we want to do that? And a lot of it is human behavior, but where we can do things such as fencing, security fencing, we'll look at that as an important ability to secure the site.
Just to add a comment, we had done some construction and it was with dump trucks filling in our property, and we had to stop at a certain time in the afternoon while all the kids were getting out of school, and then they could start again. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, or
yeah.
We're going to work very closely with the contractor and the principal on site to arrive at what is the best protocol for getting kids safely in and off the site. We do this all the time. We have much smaller sites with students occupied full-time, and daily things come up. And so it's going to be an open lines of communication. Contractors are really good about working with us. They'll move fences if needed to accommodate different events or additional parking or whatever.
where
that
we
we
are, there's no sidewalks now, so
Yeah.
it's kind of scary.
During construction, just to make it clear, during construction, the areas that the contractors work will be separate from the areas that the public and students have access to. So their operations are secured separately, so. Yes.
With the site selection, you have to know, is there gonna be any geothermal possibly being installed?
Yeah.
Or at least maybe planned so that it could be, cause obviously under the building, it might be one of the best places.
Right.
Because that's a big investment, and that could be used for cooling and heating
Right.
as need be.
Absolutely. And
So you
again,
should
the
join our
question was-
committee.
Just repeating the question was, if you, is there any thought to geothermal that could be coupled to a heating or cooling system being thought of as we're planning this? And absolutely, in fact, I'll let Lisa handle that because she's been working with
So that's one of the items we're considering in the Sustainability Committee. We're looking at how many wells it might be, approximate costs. Again, we don't know all this to get really into the design, but we're looking at where are those possible locations. A lot of times it's under a parking lot, or under a field or something like that. So that is being looked at along this whole process. And then that will be something that unfortunately the state does not fund. So if it is something that the community wants to support, we'll look at that consideration and engage the community and see if that's something we want to fold into the project.
It could be in addition to natural gas heating, and I'm assuming there will be some cooling in the school.
Yeah, and so again, the question or the follow-up on that was that that this could be something that supplements natural gas boilers, and that there may be some cooling in the building. One of the considerations, again, thinking about learning environments today, and is that we use the building more throughout the year than we ever have in the past. And so the idea of thinking about, we use the word air conditioning, but it means different things for architects. But anyway, the idea of air conditioning a building in more areas than simply the administrative offices or the library. Now we're starting to look at really, does it make sense to put it in other areas? And that in 5 years, are we going to have school that even goes longer than we have now? So we have to be thinking about that. So that's a consideration that we're thinking about.
I'm not quite sure how to say this, but as our society evolves in its looking at the whole question of safety and what that might involve as far as what would be reasonable limitations on armaments and guns and so on, I absolutely believe that we must support common sense and carefully thought out requirements that would increase safety to the point where it is common sense and rational. What I would hate to see is a building that resembled a fortress more than a school.
Yep, absolutely. So and the comment was, I hope I do it justice, but the idea is that in today's sort of heightened sense of concern regarding school safety and security, the hope is that we make sort of a rational, common sense approach to it, and nothing that looks like a fortress. And does that capture it? So, and the point is, we believe that too, and that's actually what a lot of the best practices in security discuss. That there's really a sort of balance of making sure this feels like an open community resource, but making sure that our students are safe within that. And so we'll get into that more as we get into the design of the building itself. And there's a lot of information out there right now regarding school design and safety, and not all of it on the behavioral side, but a lot on the physical building itself.
But to add to that, when we get into the design, we work with the local police, fire, we work with Katie and her staff to understand the policies and procedures they have in place now or they want to have in the future, and help use the building to support those policies and procedures. But we're constantly trying to balance great design for educational environments and safety. And contrary to what most people believe, visibility is one of the best things that you can have. Instead of creating a fortress, being able to see in and out of the building. So we definitely look at that every step of the way.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Mark, I don't suppose that the state pays for
The question is, does the state pay for bulletproof glass? And the issue is that bulletproof glass is good where you have bulletproof glass. But the idea is that there's sort of always a weak link. And so most of the incidents that have occurred have actually been through open doors and people being able to get around things. But no, they don't pay for bulletproof glass, but there's a lot of other variations of glazing right now that we're looking at. And so there are laminated security glass that we're looking at, and so there's a range of different things. Ballistic glass is pretty expensive. We couldn't use it everywhere. It's too cost prohibitive to try to use ballistic glass everywhere. But we are using special glass and technology in certain locations. So, yeah. Excellent. Well, so again, anyone can come up after our vote, and Lisa and I will be here, and we'd love to answer any questions you might have. This has been great, actually, all the questions, and it shows really there's a lot of interest in making sure that we do our job and design the school the right way. We're going to ask again. There's a sign-in sheet. Has everyone signed the sign-in sheet? Looks like it. Great. All right, we need some volunteers to help us with counts. Have we identified volunteers yet, Lisa?
We have not.
All right.
Any volunteers?
Bonnie, you're
Bonnie?
volunteering? Yeah. All right, Bonnie Hayes, come on up here.
Sue and
Adam,
Bonnie.
Adam, are you good with numbers? Yeah.
I'll do it.
Excellent. So we just, again, just,
Sign-in sheet. Who
okay,
has the
great.
sign-in sheet?
Sign in. There's one, is that, we have a sign-in sheet right in front of that table, is that right? Great. There we go. Okay. I had to actually go on Google last night to figure out where the straw came from, straw poll, but you can come up and ask me that after. The question is by a show of hands in the affirmative, do you favor moving forward with this project on this site? So all those in favor of that, please raise your hand and our counters will count. Please keep them up, yes.